What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm College Football Podcast. Back here for another season. Pete Cole and me, Dan Servodidio. We did these live streams last year, if you check those out, and we've both been playing the College Football DFS for a number of years now, so we are well versed in all of this, and happy to have you guys aboard the Fantasy Alarm team. Pete, how are you doing? You ready for week 0 we got coming up on Saturday? Plenty of games to get to.
Yeah, what's up, Servo? It's good to be back. It's just I'm still trying to get off the MLB mode into college football, but man, it's cool because it's something different. You know what I mean? It's that anybody that plays MLB, it's that drawn out drag every day. Anybody that grinds it, and this is a really nice break for a couple of days. And I think this is one of the better week zeros we've had, if I remember.
It's gonna be good. We got some good games. You know, not a ton of like top 25 programs in action. Some good teams overall, and a couple close ones, which should make for DFS more interesting at least. A few blowouts, but you know that's expected with some of these situations, these matchups. By the way, if you are watching this and you are new to Fantasy Alarm, go check out the Fantasy Alarm All Pro subscription. You can get 50% off for the next 6 months, which is all of NFL and college football DFS playbooks, seasonal, and through the entire seasons, through the Super Bowl. So it'll cover the entire college football season there, but 50% off for the next 6 months. Promo code NFL50. So that'll give you access to our playbook that is up right now if you're watching this for college football. This is the main slate we're going over, but Pete Cole will have the night slate playbook, and we'll be doing this all season. So hopefully you guys can join along. And those playbooks, we encourage you to go check those out because they're more in-depth thoughts. This will be kind of a quicker preview through each position, the top players, values, all that. Those playbooks are going to have more write-ups about different players and more thoughts and core plays for the slates, so cash and GPP strategy, all that. I mean, we'll be talking about some of this on here, but I encourage you guys to go check out the playbook. And with that, we will get into this slate. So week 0, some great games. I mean, I think that we have like a couple of Big Ten matchup, Nebraska Northwestern right off the bat in Ireland. It's going to be awesome to kick off the Saturday early slate here. And then, a team like Florida State, which is going to be awesome to watch. I mean, they're playing a cake matchup against Duquesne, but I think it'd be cool to watch Florida State and see if they are, back. They got upset by Jacksonville State last year in one of these easy matchups, so they are probably itching to get back in there. And then some good offenses, Utah State, Western Kentucky on the board. And let's start with quarterbacks here. I think the 3 that's, people are going to be choosing from, whether it's cash or GPP, Austin Reed, Jordan Travis, and Logan Bonner. I mean, I think, you can go a number of different ways there, and they're all similarly priced. Jordan Travis is the guy that, I'm worried that the blowout factor is going to come into play with Florida State, but I'm also hoping that he does plenty before he's benched, right?
That's my biggest concern with Jordan Travis is that blowout factor.
Yeah.
I think, dual threat, that's what you want in college football. I mean, college football DF in I've been reading a lot about Travis, especially down here in Florida, and especially the way his arm's developing. So, and we all know how good of a runner he is, but that's my problem is Duquesne is how. And next week they have a big time matchup next week. So, and who are they playing next week? I know I wrote a note down here, and of course now I can't find it. But they have a decent matchup next week against LSU. So, how far do they want to go with Jordan Travis, risking injury before a big game at LSU? I mean, you don't want to lose week 2 to LSU. So, last week I looked up against UMass. They played against UMass. He threw the ball 10 times, ran the ball 9 times. Yeah. Is that going to get it done at $8,800 in DK? No. So that drops him a little bit, but I think he's the most talented quarterback on the slate.
Yeah, and then the other factor is that Florida State has Chuba Purdy, a transfer now, so it's like they have him in the mix and might want to get him more playing time in the second half, that kind of thing. Yep. And similarly, Logan Bonner for Utah State. So they have Levi Williams in town now, and Bonner is coming off an injury, has practiced in fall, but missed all of spring camp. And I think, they're big favorites over UConn here. I think 26.5 is the latest spread I'm seeing right now. But they are probably going to be up early and often, and maybe it's like a situation where Bonner is sitting for part of the second half, so that limits his upside. And same situation with Austin Reed for Western Kentucky, because Western Kentucky is 3 touchdown favorites over Austin Peay and probably going to be doing plenty. I think that is a situation where we'll probably see the starters well into the second half, and hopefully Austin Peay keeps it a little bit closer. I will say, like, the level of blowout, it's going to be Duquesne getting absolutely killed by Florida State here, and then Utah State expected to win much bigger than Western Kentucky. So if you're trying to rank those, but you mentioned the dual threat with Travis. That was something we loved last year from him, and basically anytime we have a DFS quarterback for college football, I mean, the dual threat is something that puts them above these other guys. But Austin Reed, I mean, replacing Bailey Zappi at Western Kentucky, this offense can be pass happy, going to be filled with the scoring, and they usually do it through the air. This isn't a team that has a strong run game. So if you're looking to pair, you're getting Western Kentucky, you're looking to pair Reed with maybe a receiver or two.
Austin, and I think you got to use Austin Reed in cash. He's 9K.
He'll be popular.
Yeah, he should be a 10K player. He's Division II player. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've watched him play and all that. I mean, I've seen some clips of him. He is a talented kid. This is a high octane offense. Floored, 3 touchdowns, 275, something like that. He's your cash play, and I may go different GBP just because he's going to be so popular. Don't leave out my man Tommy DeVito, though. Tommy DeVito was just named starter at Illinois. My man from Syracuse, Jersey kid, but he's actually starting, so actually good for him. Congrats for him. I wasn't sure if he's going to start, but I will have him in a GBP somewhere. But I think you're right. I think Reed's the play at cash. He's going to be very high owned. I do worry about Bonner. Bonner is, though, it seems like he's been given the keys to the kingdom now this year. Last year, there was a little bit of a committee there, but even Levi there, I think he's the main guy. But to me, it's all about Austin Reed, maybe some Jordan Travis and GPPs, and then the rest of these other guys. We got all these committees and stuff, right? I mean, even the Austin Peay game, and the Austin Peay team, they're quarterback by committee right as of right now with Sheldon Lehman. He's just start, but DeLeo was going to come in at some point. 60-40, I think I saw.
Yeah, I'm staying away from that anyway, but yeah. I mean, the only guy lower down the quarterback list would be Casey Thompson for Nebraska.
What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, so if you followed college football at all, you know what the situation with Nebraska is. They got Mark Whipple over from Pitt, their offensive coordinator, and we also
OC.
Yeah, we also Kenny Pickett turned into a first-round quarterback in the draft because of that offense, and Jordan Addison, one of the best talents. Now he's gone. But so we got Whipple over Nebraska, and they also bring in, so Casey Thompson transferred from Texas. They also brought in Marcus Washington, transferred from Texas, Trey Palmer.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, Washington on the slate for sure. Yeah, we'll get to receivers soon. But the Trey Palmer from LSU, a guy that's going to be rumored to be in that Jordan Addison slot role for this offense now. So this offense should be much better passing wise, and this is no longer Adrian Martinez at quarterback for Nebraska, who was always a question mark for us for DFS, but in real life too, just costing them games left and right.
There were days I lived and died by him too. But
I mean, he was good for DFS. He had that dual threat ability, but also would fumble in the fourth quarter, and then in the real life that would cost Nebraska, but also for DFS, it might move you down a few spots in the contest.
A couple points, but I think Thompson's problem was his thumb, if I remember correctly. I think
from last year,
yeah, and that kind of bothered him all season. So I guess he's pretty much back, full ready to go. So I think that's a decent call. That could actually be one of my top. That would be one of my top. I want my top GBP plays. Maybe
the price is really good on DraftKings, 7,200.
Yeah, him or Travis for GBP. Yeah. That's going to be
I think Thompson might be more rostered because he's cheaper. Just that simple fact. I mean, Travis. People might go to Travis in cash games. I'm trying to decide if people will. Yeah. The closer games. So Nebraska is. I mean, the line has moved a bunch, but looks like about 12, 13
I have 13 in front of me.
Yeah, it's moved a lot, but 14 I'm seeing. So it could be going back and forth, but remain close enough that this won't be a blowout for sure. I mean, it was last year when Nebraska played Northwestern, but I think the fact that this game's in Ireland, there's no home field advantage for either squad, and I think just conference game right off the bat, I think it's just gonna be a tighter game in general. So but Nebraska, and we'll get through a couple of receivers. We mentioned Washington, Palmer as possible pairings with Thompson if you want to go that route. The other guy I have to mention, UNLV's quarterback situation is is very interesting. So they have an either or listed on their depth chart. We got Doug Bremfield.
Once a runner, runs a passer.
Yeah, Harrison Bailey. But Bailey on DraftKings is 4,500. So if we, and this game is at 3:30 Eastern, so we will have a couple games that already kicked off. But if we're talking like super flex and you want to go, we get word that Bailey is the starter. I mean, they might split time, but if Bailey starts at 4,500, it's going to be hard to pass up, especially in cash, and he's going to be very, very chalky. So that's the name to keep an eye on. You might want to just avoid the situation altogether because it could be.
He was a 4-star too. This Bailey kid.
Yeah,
he's from Tennessee, I believe.
Tennessee transfer. Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting because he was kind of expected to win the starting job this summer and pretty, going away, but they haven't named him the starter. Brumfeld's a holdover. He was hurt part of last year, but Cameron Friel is also a guy that played last year. So, and UNLV. So the other thing is with this game, like the others, UNLV is big favorites over Idaho State. Should be a blowout win. So we'll see. We might see both quarterbacks at some point. So maybe Bailey doesn't start, but he comes into the game, or vice versa with Brumfield. So just keep that in mind. But you have to, 4,500, min price for a quarterback. So just obviously keep that in mind.
One more comment, I guess, before we get out of quarterback is if you're ever playing FanDuel, you got the Perry Chris Reynolds matchup. I played Chris Reynolds a lot last year in DFS.
Yeah,
I like that game, FAU Charlotte. So that'll be more on my night slate for DK. But if you're playing FanDuel, don't sleep on either of them. I'll be more Perry in this matchup. I think Perry's decent. Last year, if he had 4 rushing touchdowns, over 2,700 yards, 20 touchdowns in the air, I think Perry's a good spot for FanDuel, and he's coming much cheaper than Bonner, much cheaper, a couple like $3,000 cheaper than Austin Reed. So that's for these FanDuel players.
Yeah, and it's interesting that game is on the FanDuel slate because you mentioned it's gonna be the night slate for DraftKings. So if you are on FanDuel, we'll get to a couple other guys from that game. You've got to keep in mind because people will be on that game. That game total right around 60, and it's only a 1-score favorite to the U team. So it's gonna be a close game, back and forth, probably tons of offense.
So you're on FanDuel. I would be playing either of those guys over Jordan Travis.
Yeah, and you mentioned the pricing. They're both pretty solidly priced. They're both below Casey Thompson, for example, on that slate. Then let's go to running backs. And by the way, on FanDuel, Harrison Bailey is priced up to 7,500. I think they waited to release their pricing to kind of get a better idea. But DraftKings had this out a little bit earlier, so he's min price on there. So just don't miss him in the player queue if we get word. And this will be, by the way, we'll be in the Discord on Saturdays answering questions for you guys. And if you have an All-Pro subscription to Fantasy Alarm, you can access that Discord. And it's a big thing for us on Saturdays, Pete. Or for all sports, for every DFS you play. The whole Fantasy Alarm squad is in there answering questions, lineup advice. Injury news, especially on Saturday mornings, is huge for us because we get something 5 minutes before kickoff that this player is out, and it could be a huge factor. So, be in there with us. And last year we did the live stream and had the Discord going, but I think it'll be a little bit interesting to just be in the Discord and give you guys that info right away. So
it will be much more helpful this year without the live show.
Yeah. So if we get word on Saturday that Bailey's the starter, just keep an eye on that. All right, running backs here. We got, Calvin Tyler Jr. for Utah State, Chase Brown for Illinois are the top 2 guys overall. And I think people will be choosing between them. I don't know about rostering both for cash, but I think you can go either way. Tyler, again, with Utah State, they have the blowout factor here, should win big over UConn. But again, he could have, 2 touchdowns and, 25 fantasy points before he's out of the game. So that's the interesting situation there. Chase Brown, though, should be fed the rock. You mentioned DeVito getting the start for Illinois. I think maybe they are still a little run heavy with that offense, and against Wyoming, they should win pretty handedly, I think, here at home. Wyoming's offense going through some transition, so I think Chase Brown is a solid play for cash. It's going to be a safe one, and I'm interested to see how much he's rostered compared to Tyler.
Yeah, I love running back on this slate. I really do. I could make a case for Chase Brown, Ramir Johnson, or Tyler, and we didn't get to Aiden Robbins yet. But my 2 big guys, of course, Chase Brown. And going against Wyoming, they were allowing like 180 plus on the ground last year. To me personally, I think Brown Brown is a better choice than Tyler on the slate. I think it's just tough to fade Chase Brown, especially with their new offensive coordinator, was Barry Looney, who pretty much ran Sincere McCormick into the ground. And we could see these guys run 40 times tomorrow. Tomorrow. So Chase Brown could see the ball a lot, which also may put in a guy like a Josh McCray behind him, who, Brown gets 30 touches. I could see Chase, McCray coming in and getting 15 touches or something, because they're going to run the ball a lot. So Brown's my guy, but Ramir Johnson, to me, he's one of those guys I'm very curious about him. He kind of I was actually reading, he kind of made his own position. He's been kind of running a lot of the slot too.
Yeah.
So he kind of gave himself his own position name. I can't remember. I saw it somewhere when I was researching before, but you got Ramir Johnson sitting there. I think Ramir Johnson at 5,400. You really can't sleep on that either. And Northwestern was real bad last year on the ground. So I may play Johnson and Brown over Tyler, but I would never tell anybody not to play Calvin Tyler tomorrow either, because Tyler's a good play. Probably 8-1. No, it's a lot of money when I can get Ramir at 5-4, and then right now I have Chase Brown or Calvin Tyler. I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, so Brown, it's interesting because Brown is $200 less than Tyler on DraftKings, but he's $1,200 less on FanDuel. So they got Tyler priced up there. So Brown definitely a better play on FanDuel if you're looking there. And I think DraftKings, I think we're both leaning there. But going back to the Nebraska backfield, this is going to be, I think this is a headache this week. I like Johnson too. That price is very good. But they have, I was reading reports too. So they have possibly 4 or 5 running backs that could get snaps in this game. Anthony Grant is a JUCO transfer that apparently been looking very good, and he's got the OR designation with Johnson among the starters, I think. So it's okay. That's gonna be interesting. But as you mentioned, Johnson could be the pass catching guy, and PPR, we love that. So I think choosing between the two, I'd go Johnson for sure over Grant. Grant is very much priced up on DraftKings, and I think until we get some clarity, you can't pay $6,700 to roster Grant there.
No, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. I'll be playing Ramir over Grant. But Grant, Grant was a top. He was a big JUCO back too. So can you get Calvin Tyler? Can you get Tyler in your same lineup with Chase Brown? You may, because there's a lot of value. There's a lot of value at wide receiver, and there's even some value here. We haven't gotten the UNLV kid.
Yeah, right.
Maybe we can.
But yeah, and by the way, Johnson, you could put him, like you were saying, in your flex. If you want to go Tyler, Brown, and Johnson as your cheaper flex, that can work. And you mentioned, so we got some value at receiver, but the value running back, he's going to be very popular on DraftKings and just kind of a free square. And that's Aiden Robbins, the Louisville transfer, who's been named the starter for UNLV. It's just a situation where you guys, you got to play him in cash, right? You can fade him in GPP, but 3,300 in DraftKings, you got to play him there. He's priced up to 7,300 on FanDuel, so more of a decision there, but he's the lead back for a UNLV team that's favored by 4 touchdowns or 3 or 4 touchdowns. So it's going to be, he should get plenty of work and probably finds the end zone once or twice. So just don't think twice about it in the DraftKings cash games.
Yeah, it's a lock. When you got price like this, I just made a lineup. As you were talking, I made a lineup 2 minutes, and where you can get Brown and Tyler in your lineup together with Aiden Robbins and Austin Reed. So there's enough value, which kind of worries me too, because I may see a lot of chalk tomorrow. We might want to be different. But Robbins is the play. Since we saw what Charles Williams did at UNLV last year, and even if Robbins doesn't play much, once again, he's not a lock for 25 touches at $3,300. It's not much. It's not going to bump your slate if something happens, he doesn't get the workload which we think he's going to get.
Yeah. And then FanDuel, just to go back to that, if you're playing over there, so it is more of a decision. 7,300 is his price. compared to, Chase Brown is 8,800, as we were talking about. Ramir Johnson still cheap on that site, 5,300, but 7,300, I think, he's still pretty fairly priced compared to other top backs on this slate as a lead back for a big favorite. So, but yeah, so that's I do like that. The other guy I want to talk about is Treyshawn Ward from Florida State. So the Florida State backfield kind of. It's tough to get a read on this too. We're talking about big favorites here over Duquesne, so multiple guys will get carries. It's just a matter of what a guy like Treyshawn Ward as the lead back is going to do before he's benched or before they start running Trey Benson out there, who's also very talented, but just he's too expensive, especially on DraftKings, 6,500. But you also got Lawrence Toafili, who's the other co-starter running back, but kind of a different guy than Ward. And I think Treyshawn Ward was really good when he got in there last year behind Jashaun Corbin. But I think Ward at 6,100 is something you got to consider, because that's pretty cheap for a guy that could easily go for 25, 30 DraftKings points if he's at his ceiling. You know what I mean? So
I totally agree there. Florida State runner's never been good to me. You know who one other name I think is going to get work, even though the only people I'd be looking at Northwestern is going to be Evan Hall at 6,300. I'm expecting 15, 20 carries, but you got Cam Porter back. Now, Cam Porter missed all 2021, but 2020 he was the team's leading rusher, so he's there. But I do think that Evan Hall, I think, is a good spot. GPPs, but he's one of my favorite GPPs on slate, Evan Hall. I can see Hull having a decent game here against Nebraska, and even running Porter as a pivot. But don't sleep on Hull this week as a GPP play.
Yeah, you definitely got to keep an eye on him. Even like Titus Swen from Wyoming. I mean, I won't play him, but
That's another good call. Yeah,
he should get plenty of work. So if you were just looking for volume, I mean, he will get it. So, but I won't go there in cash. But yeah, like GPP, you could definitely go there.
That's a good call, because we know that Wyoming likes to run the ball too.
Yeah, they had Valladay there.
So,
I mean, yeah, a different situation. I just think I don't know how much they're going to have the ball, because like Illinois, we talked about, is going to run it a ton, and they just have the better home field advantage offense in this situation. So I'm worried about the Wyoming offense in general. So Titus Swen might get 20 touches, but how much is he actually going to do with them? So that's what I would worry about. But yeah, so all right, let's go to receiver here. If we're just looking at the top of the price list, we got Western Kentucky's Malachi Corley at the top, which is a really interesting situation. So this offense loses Tinsley and Stearns from last year's team, and they were both studs for DFS and in real life, just racking up a ton of yards. So Corley is the guy that should be moving into that top spot. But just to go through Western Kentucky's offense, so if you're playing Austin Reed and you're looking to pair one or two of these guys, there's a ton of ways you can go. Jalen Hall.
There's too many ways.
Yeah, there's too many ways, honestly. Jalen Hall is an interesting guy, but maybe priced up a little bit much until we see what his true role is. But he's a guy I loved at Western Michigan, so he could easily emerge as the top guy for Reed. And, maybe down the line we play him more over Corley. But Corley's good. I mean, he's the top returning guy from this offense, so he can't be ignored. Matheson and Simon are in that mid-range. I think our options, Simon, the tight end, could be a top target for Reed as well, but Matheson also maybe more a cash option there. But I think the name everyone's going to go to is Dawood Davis. He's priced way too low, 4,800.
Right.
Going to be chalky in cash for sure. So, and he's also one of the top returning guys from last year. So, I mean, he's more of a big play guy, so he might be more boom or bust than you think, but I think he gets enough work in this environment to easily return that price tag.
Yeah, Davis is going to be anybody's cash lineup.
Yeah.
You know that. Like you said, I'm interested in Joshua Simons, big tight end. He's back. He was really good there before he got hurt, right?
Yeah.
He was out, if I remember, last year. So
yeah, he missed pretty much the whole year, yeah.
I mean, any of these guys, this whole team, I mean, a guy like Stearns at Tampa Bay now, he had Mitchell Tinsley last year, who was at Penn State. These guys produce talented receivers, and all these guys, Jalen Hill, they said Matheson. One other name I think that may fly under the radar a little bit is Dalvin Smith at 3,500. I think Dalvin Smith's in a good spot. I think he may be one of the lowest owned of all those receivers. I mean, he had a complimentary role last year. I'm assuming he's going to get more of a role this year, but he's my one sneaky play. We all saw Jalen Hall at Western Michigan. We know that how explosive he is. But we just don't, that's going to be a problem on the slate, though, as I think, like any other sport, you start playing these chalky guys. It's the first week of college football. We have no idea where these coaches are thinking. The problem is going to score so many points. But man, I mean, I would like to start looking possibly at some other teams too, like on the other side of the field there, Dre McCray. I think Dre McCray is way too cheap.
Yeah, good call.
To me, he's a lock. McCray is more of a lock in cash than Davis, but I just don't know how much Davis. We don't know. It's Jalen Hall can get all the throws. I mean, Matheson can. Simons can. I mean, think Davis is going to be one of the guys. Corley's going to be a slot guy in a Stern role, and Davis is going to be more the Tinsley role, the Grand Slam guy, I'm thinking. But we don't know. I mean, we haven't seen a game yet. So sometimes, listen, GPPs, it might be different to go start looking elsewhere. Dre McCray, you're one of your ex-Maryland guys, Brian Cobbs, who I'm very interested in.
Yeah.
I mean, then I got a surprise play at Duquesne I want to bring up before we end up one of the value plays. Isaiah Williams. So, now I'm starting to name on receivers. But I guess I'm saying I don't want to get too tied into these West Kentucky receivers because we don't know.
Yeah.
We're thinking, Corley's a Stern, Daywood is a Tinsley role. But what if Joshua Simons comes in? We all know how good Jalen Hall is. So may not come out. I think it's going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, I think at GPP you can obviously go with any of these guys, and I think any of them catch 2 touchdowns. So there's that aspect. But yeah, like you're saying, there's so much value on this slate that you don't need to play, like Simon or Hall, I think, until we see exactly what the situation is. Because, new quarterback, Austin Reed, he could have, he didn't throw to these guys last year. He could have any favorite receiver that might emerge in this first game, and we just don't know that right now. I mean, the practice reports will only tell you so much of who's starting and all that, but it could easily be, like you were saying, Dalvin Smith could be Reed's favorite target, and all of a sudden he's the guy. So it's
Zach Kitley's gone too. We don't know. I mean, Tyson Helton pretty much ran that. He ran the portal like a NFL coach is running a free agent draft. But with Kitley's gone at Texas Tech, so we don't think there's going to be changes there.
Yeah.
So I just don't want to get too locked into all these Western Kentucky guys. We're not positive where these guys are going to go. But on FanDuel, I think Hall and Simon are 2 guys that are too cheap on FanDuel. If you're playing on FanDuel.
Yeah, good call. Yeah, I mean, just like looking at those prices, I mean, you were talking about someone like David Davis is priced up to 7,800. Like that's a 3,000 difference between that DraftKings and FanDuel. And Dre McCray on the other side, 7,500. So he's also priced up. But let's talk about that Utah State, because you've mentioned Brian Cobbs, a Maryland transfer, now coming over there. So this receiving core lost a ton from last year, just kind of like Western Kentucky. But Devin Tompkins, a top NFL draft prospect that's now over there. But Brandon Bowling, Derek Wright, both also gone from this receiving core. So that's the top 3 receivers. And this is an offense that, throws a bunch, but is very prolific in its a scoring but passing game overall. So some of these guys are going to return value for sure. Justin Mcgriff is the top holdover. So he is the priced up to 6,800 on DraftKings, but I think that's tough to pay for him compared to like Brian Cobbs, who's probably going to do similarly, but costs a lot less. The guy I'm looking at, Kyle Van Leeuwen, I think is how you say it, but he is supposedly going to start in the slots. It's an or designation with 9-Eye Davis, so that's another name, 3,900 on DraftKings you can look at. But Van Leeuwen has apparently been having a good connection with Bonner and is the guy in the slots. So I think at 4,200, it's not a lot of risk there to roster him. So yeah, a ton of options you can go here, I think, for the Utah State offense if you're looking to pair with Bonner.
I think McGriff's going to be the popular play. That's why I would probably lean Brian Cobbs myself. Yeah. And I just think Cobbs is a pretty talented receiver. And a blowout factor there too, so we don't know. I'm looking at the other game. One other name I didn't mention was Robert Burns. Robert Burns on UConn, ex-Hurricane. So running back, GPP only, but as a dart, never know. I just saw UConn. I have no interest in UConn at all. And beside Robert Burns. So not the chance.
And he had, so he's going to be the starter in that offense. I mean, yeah, so that's a situation where it's
UConn.
You don't know how much UConn is going to be running the ball, maybe early in the game, but late in the game if they're trailing, it might not be a ton of work for him. But now that we're talking about that, I mean, Keelan Marion is a cheap guy on UConn's offense. If you think they're going to be passing a lot in the end of the,
and they're going to be, I'm assuming. I mean, they got something.
They're gonna be. Aaron Turner is another cheap guy. If you're looking at the UConn receiving core, I want to go back to the Nebraska because we talked about them. If you're looking to pair someone with Casey Thompson, so Trey Palmer is the LSU transfer who's apparently going to be in the slot and where Jordan Addison excelled last year in that Pitt Mark Whipple offense. So I think at him at 6,200, I'd much rather play him on DraftKings than Omar Manning. We don't know what Manning's role is going to be yet. I mean, he's priced like he's the top receiver, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And again, this is a new quarterback situation, so we'll see who Thompson likes throwing to. Marcus Washington is the name we mentioned earlier, Texas transfer.
That's what just be that Marcus Washington.
I think he's going to be popular, right, in cash.
Because I'm assuming they came there together. They both transferred from the same school to there, so there's got to be some kind of connection, right? I mean, I would think if Marcus Washington had some kind of issue with Casey Thompson, you know what I mean, or he didn't like to throw to him, I sure as hell don't think he would be transferring the same college as Casey Thompson, right? So to me, it makes it. I think there's more of a positive on there where they're friends and Marcus Washington at $3,800. I do like Trey Palmer. I think Palmer's a great spot. I think Palmer's the guy. Personally, but I think Marcus Washington may be one of the guy that comes out having a big game. I just think that's that connection that he went there for a reason, I think.
Yeah, he's too cheap. And if you look back, I wrote about this in the playbook, but you can see the specific stats there. But the two games that he had his two best games last year, Washington, were two of the games that Thompson had his best games when he was healthy, not dealing with that thumb injury and not splitting work in that quarterback there. So it's kind of matched up where those two kind of paired off and both had good connection there. So they have that report already. So that's a huge thing to look here. So I do like him at 3,800 a lot. I mean, that's going to be hard to get away from, I think, if you're looking for salary, especially below 4K. We love these receivers that are below 4K. So I want to move over to the Florida State's receiving core quickly here. Micah Pittman, the Oregon transfer, comes over. He's priced up at 7,500 on DraftKings, but I do think he's going to be the top receiver. He's their kick returner, their punt returner. He's going to be their top guy. It's just a matter of, again, his connection with Jordan Travis. We keep talking about it, but it's a thing. I mean, we don't know who because he played with some of these guys last year. Travis did, but Pittman comes over as a transfer, so maybe.
The coach talk is crazy about Micah Pittman this year.
Yeah, they're hyping him up. Yeah,
they're very hyping him up. They said he's had one of the best camps they've seen in quite a while. Remember, this guy's been pretty much a stiff coming. I mean, from Oregon. I mean, he's not been good. He's done. No. I mean, his best season was 2019. But they're praising this kid. Maybe there's a reason they're doing it. But Micah Pittman's also my favorite call there too. And GPP only, I think he's a 7.7 or 7.5. But I'm glad you brought Pittman up because I didn't know to bring him up and I forgot. So I like that call too, GPP.
Yeah, he's a bit expensive to play in cash on this slate, especially the blowout factor. I mean, he could have two catches and then Florida State's up by 30 and then all of a sudden he's not really on the field. So yeah, it's a risk there for sure. But yeah, he's the other guys in this. They have a lot of either or listings on the depth chart, so I think it's hard to trust any of them in cash games. But you could take a chance. GPP, one of them could score a touchdown, return value. Like Johnny Wilson at 4,100 is a guy to look at. Transfer from Arizona State.
Definite GPP play. Yep.
Yeah, he was solid for us. That we played him when he was at Arizona State. So I think he's a bit too cheap for what he could end up being. A top target for Travis. Who knows? So I want to get to your Duquesne guy that you hyped up there because I want to say. So I wrote up the playbook and I mean I saw all these guys, but in my mind I'm like I just don't know. I feel like Duquesne might just get they could get shut out in this game.
They very well could be.
Yeah, maybe, but like you're probably about to say, one of their guys could catch 5-6 passes and return value. So who is it?
This is like your call. Remember your call last year, the Maryland tight end? Was it Maryland tight end?
Okonkwo.
Yeah, you had that call.
Hey,
he had a huge game too.
Camp right now.
Yeah, you're right. Yep, he was a big money maker that day. So that was one of your best calls of the year last year. But everybody's gonna be looking at Joey Isabella, of course, Andy's brother. So, and I think some people see Isabella, they're going to be thinking of Andy, and they're going to hit it, whatever, and once again, positive game shift, falling from behind. But I've been interested in this, once again, it's from my alma mater, too, is Dwayne Menders, who transferred from Marist. And I've been reading a lot about Menders. I remember when he was at Marist, he was very good, a very good receiver. Once again, not just that Division I there, though, but I've seen a lot of comparisons to Justin Jefferson. People talking about Mendez. He's the guy, Menders Jr. He's going to fly right under the radar. And so once again, you're making 20 lineups. I'm going to get Menders in a couple of them just for a chance, but it's more of a gut play too. But don't sleep on, if you're going to play anybody from Duquesne, I'll be playing Menders over Isabella. And just everything I've read, I think he's definitely going to get some receptions. He's going to get some looks. it's not that Isabella's a star either. So Menders is like 5'11", is 170, 45 receptions, like 525 yards last year. So he's a slot receiver.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, slot guys can rack up, 6 catches and be a solid play. Interesting there. I like that. So yeah, and you mentioned, so I mean, he's going to be very much less popular than in that same price range on DraftKings. Dawood Davis, we were talking about earlier, Dre McCray.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Keelan Marion, probably all going to be more popular than someone like Menders Jr. So people like me will be staying away from Duquesne. So all right, well, I mean, that's about it. Any other guys that we didn't touch on that you wanted to get to?
Yeah, I was just looking now to see if we missed anybody on the whole slate that I had marked. I don't think so. I like the slate. I think it's going to be a better GPP slate, but I think a lot of people are going to be let down in chalk because we're not sure how some of these Western Kentucky guys are going to go. But at the end of the day, though, I think it's going to be a pretty good slate. I had no for Robert Burns. We talked about Robert Burns.
Yeah.
For UConn, GPP only. I think we did pretty much hit everybody I wanted to.
All right.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Well, appreciate you guys checking us out. Again, the full playbook will be on Fantasy Alarm, and subscribe to the All Pro account as we mentioned earlier. Promo code NFL50 for 50% off for the next 6 months. Pete Cole will have the night slate playbook for this week 0 slate, and all season long we'll be helping you guys win. So hit us up in the Discord, on Twitter, whatever it be. Check out our playbooks, and good luck, Pete. Good luck to you, and we'll be doing it again next week, right?
Before you know it, we'll be talking saying we can't believe the season's over with. So
I know, right?
This is it, week 0, ready to go.
Well, good luck, everyone.
Good luck, guys.
Appreciate you guys checking us out. See ya.